Shalom and welcome to Jewish Voice. I'm Jonathan Bernis, and I'm glad you've decided to join us today. A lot of people, myself included, struggle with their weight. Our quest today combines scientific research with biblical teaching to improve your health and mind so you can live the life that God intended. Please welcome back to the program the author of the new book, Think and Eat Yourself Smart, Dr. Caroline Leaf.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great to have you back with us. We've spent the last 2 days talking about your thinking and about real food versus food-like products, which unfortunately makes up the MAD diet, the Modern
American diet.
80% of what we eat is determined by our thinking, the 80-20 principle.
Yes.
And so we have to get our thinking right. It's like a domino effect. We get the thinking right and everything follows. So let's jump into the thinking aspect of getting healthier, eating right.
Okay. Well, it's basically eating mindfully. So being mindfully aware of what am I putting into my mouth, what's on my plate, where did it come from, how did the food that I'm eating, how did it eat? So if you're eating, for example, if you've got a beefsteak in front of you or something, is that from a conventional cow that's been grown up? Well, a cow that's grown has been raised in a CAFO, like a factory. They call them factories, concentrated animal farming operations I mentioned earlier on, versus the cow that was allowed to roam free in the pastures and eat all the natural grasses and be a happy cow.
So it may look the same, but it's really completely different. If you did a chemical breakdown of the grass-fed meat versus the industrial meat, radically different.
It's radically different, and you don't have to know, we don't have to all know the details. What is good to know is to know that, to understand a little bit about why should a cow be grass-fed? What is it doing to that meat? What's it going to do to my body? To get a basic understanding of that, and then to make a decision, and that's all mind work, and then to make a decision to eat the correct food. So there's your mind involved, in that whole process is all mind. Then it's your state of mind, which I've mentioned a couple of times while you're eating. So the modern American diet is going to actually break down the protection around your brain. And when they enter into your brain, they form plaques. And that's also one of the hallmarks of dementia. So we're literally increasing, Alzheimer's is increasing, almost parallel to modern American diet increasing. So, and that affects cognitive fluency, memory, and all the other things that go alongside with it.
So the MAD diet is clearly, from your study, serious health issues.
Serious, across-the-board health issues. To get off the MAD American diet, the modern American diet, the MAD diet, you also go through withdrawal. And it's also around about in these cycles of 21 days. Your body works in cycles of 21 days for building thoughts, for healing your body, for withdrawal. It works in these cycles of 21 days.
Can you reverse everything at pretty much any age?
Pretty much, at this stage, if someone is like 70 or odd or whatever, and they've been eating the modern American diet for years and years, you're going to still have, potentially at that stage, you may have caused so much damage in certain of, your liver may be so bad that, it may be hard to completely restore function. But certainly, massive restoration of function can happen with eating properly. But what I cannot stress enough, which leads to the first question, is that we have to change our mind to change our diet. So we can't then go back and eat and think badly. So you change your mind to get your eating right, which people can kind of get their head around that. The hard part is getting people to stay thinking healthy, forgiveness, bitterness, those kind of things.
Just staying on the mind. Mm-hmm. You talk about conscious not unconscious, conscious senses.
Yes.
Explain that to us.
Okay, so a large part of the work that I've done is understanding the mind and how it works, and the mind and the science of thought. So the mind has got an unconscious portion and a conscious portion. The conscious portion is what's working when you're awake. We call that the conscious cognitive mind. So that's the part of your mind that's much slower than your. It's quite slow, but very powerful. Okay, and it receives information, incoming information. It's driven by your non-conscious mind, which operates 24 hours a day, which is very fast, works on quantum principles, where our memories are stored, or trillions of memories we've been building since conception, and it's constantly changing. So as we're thinking, we're constantly redesigning our memories. So our unconscious mind is where the memories are being, sort of the belief systems and our memories are stored, and they influence, they pop up and they influence our conscious mind. Now, to get something from the from the outside to the unconscious mind to affect our functioning, you actually have to pay attention. And that's one of the things you and I were chatting about. One of the chapters in one of my other books that we were talking about on the previous shows talks about the quantum Zeno effect. And I talk about it in this book as well. The quantum Zeno effect is a quantum principle, which is quite simply the repeated effort that makes learning take place. So what you focus on is going to grow. Whatever you think about, the most growth. So if you are now driving your kids to school, and on the way to school you're listening to the radio and there's food ads all along the way to school, there's takeout places, there's billboards with food, you've watched on television, whatever, on internet. In other words, there's multiple opportunities to hear about the various different types of convenient food-like products in your daily life. Now, if you don't concentrate what you're doing, if you don't concentrate on what you're concentrating on, if you're not mindfully aware of what you are focusing your attention on, you're just going to let that stuff come in your head.
And it'll decide for us.
It doesn't decide for us. You decide for yourself. By you not stopping, focusing on that and saying, hey, that's not bad, that's bad for me, by you just letting it go in, you focus on it, you plant it into your unconscious mind, and after 21 days of seeing that same stuff, you've built a long-term memory of.
So we actively have to turn off that garbage.
Exactly. We have to root it out. We have to literally, we plant. This is fast food advertising. This is what it looks like. We grow a thought in our brain that's toxic.
And we want this, folks.
And we want that. That's real food.
We have to take a quick break, but stay with us. There's lots more ahead with Dr. Caroline Leaf. And later, we'll tackle some of the burning questions that you've been asking about concerning the Bible, faith, Israel. It's a segment that we call Ask the Rabbi. Stay with us.
Click or write today.
Welcome back. I'm talking with Dr. Caroline Leaf, and she's got a new book, a book you really need to get. It's called Think and Eat Yourself Smart. And you were saying that we are bombarded with marketing that actually, unless we intentionally turn that off, making that decision, we will be victims to that. We are victims to that. Our kids are victims to that.
Absolutely. As adults and our kids, you're basically planting those food ads, because by repeatedly looking at them, you are planting them as a thought inside your mind. So if then you get hungry, oops, what pops up? The food ad. It pops in your mind. This toxic thing pops up into your conscious mind. Oh, I'm hungry, I'll go and get. And then that... balanced lifestyle, and that becomes a pattern. Whatever you do the most is just going to become habituated, and we call that basically automatization in science, where something becomes automatized. So we've got to consciously realize, hey, that's what I was thinking. That's not okay. I've got to replace that. So it's a process of learning, and one of the major things that is vitally important in training yourself to eat real food is training.
Knowledge is so essential
Absolutely.
in all this because if we don't have the knowledge, we just passively give way to very
Exactly.
damaging things.
These things just,
Now, organic versus conventional. I made a note to talk about that because organic is not as simple as it sounds.
No.
There's an organic fad now, but you have to be even more careful than that, right?
Yes, because organic. As soon as we vote with our forks, which means as soon as we start as consumers buying something, the marketers wake up and say, "Hey, there's money there." So organic's becoming this healthy way of eating has become very popular. So people have jumped in the organic bandwagon, and where organic that works properly is supposed to be small farms, only a few products. There's certain rules that you're supposed to apply. So when they say pasture raised. They can bend the rules a little bit, and maybe those cows are only allowed to roam for the last 10 days of their life before they are turn into food for us, whereas that's not really organic. They're supposed to roam free their entire life and not get fed. They might say it's organic corn, but they're not supposed to be eating corn. They're supposed to be roaming the fields, eating the grass and the herbs and all the things in between. And that in itself, just as they're walking, that puts health back into the soil, so that the soil becomes healthy. Monocultures are destroying the earth, whereas when you go with normal eco-agricultural, which is basically real food measuring standards, basically you're going to support the earth. So in other words, as soon as you eat real food, the earth benefits, the animals benefit, we benefit. So we're moving back into a wired for love mode.
So just being really practical, American culture in particular, but it's true of the whole Western world. We're just busier and busier, and we don't want to be bogged down with complicated things. What's the easiest way to make this change? You said 63 days. You can change your habits. It really takes effect. The change takes effect if you stick with it for 63 days. And we're not talking about a 63-day diet.
No.
We're talking about a lifestyle
This is a
change.
lifestyle change.
Diets don't work.
No.
Fads don't work.
No.
They may cause you to
They're not
lose
sustainable.
weight,
But
but
it'll come back. And
It'll
the thing
come
is
back.
that you may, and I mean, there's a lot of research showing that if you go on these so-called low-fat and diet foods, they do the same kind of damage to you because they're food-like products. So your body is also going to land up with the same. So you may have lost weight. Most of the time, you'll actually put on weight, but with those fat-free things. But they're going to do the same kind of damage. So the whole thing is, don't go for fads. Don't go for diet foods. Don't go for anything that's not real. And
get rid of the sugar. Get rid of the corn syrup.
Get rid of the high fructose corn syrup. Get rid of anything that's made in a laboratory. And if you're eating real food, like you can have sugar. You get sugar in fruit. But if you're eating, like for example, when fruit is ripe, it's at its most nutritious and it's at its sweetest, and that's the best way to eat it. And you can't eat a whole bag of oranges, but you can certainly at all in one go. But you can certainly drink. Like people can drink. I wouldn't touch it. I haven't touched it in years. I don't think I've had Coke since I was a tiny child. But drinking like sodas and stuff, you can just drink endless amounts. People get completely addicted to them, and you compare just one glass of Coke or a soda to you have to eat like 2 bags of oranges, 2.5 bags of oranges, and you can't do that. And the Coke's doing nothing but bad, whereas the oranges are actually giving you the nutrition.
I want to highlight this again because if you eat real foods,
Yes.
you will self-regulate.
You'll self-regulate.
You won't overeat.
Exactly. So this is what the 63-day program is. It's based on the science of how our brain rebuilds networks, breaks down toxic networks, and rebuilds healthy networks. So what I'm trying to teach people to do is to actually rewire their brain. So learn about what's wrong and find out in your own mind about what your belief systems were with how you ate. Because until you change that, you won't eat mindfully.
Give us just 2 or 3 practical. You've given us some practical advice on what not to eat. We stay away from the things made in a laboratory, or I love the way you say it, laboratory. But how would I begin the process of choosing some really good foods that don't just say organic but are really good for me?
Well, to understand, I would look at the definition that I have put into the book, so that you understand the labels you're looking for: local, sustainable, pasture raised. So get those words and write those words, put them in your iPhone or something. And when you go to the shop, look for things that are fulfilling that criteria. So start it with look at your pantry, and I've got definitions in my book of how to do this. Look in your pantry at how much food-like stuff you have and how much real food you have, and in your refrigerator. Look, do the same thing, and make a decision to toss out all the bad stuff and go shopping and start looking for the correct stuff based on that definition. There's also some great apps that you can download to make sure that you're getting GMO free, which are the GMO friendly products, that kind of. So in other words, just change your mindset with shopping. That's a very big plus.
And where we shop, going to local farmers markets.
Exactly, and the community supported agriculture, where you can just sign up and you can collect your box of, your big box of all your vegetables and fruits and meats and eggs.
That sounds doable.
Everything that's done for you. You just go pick it up. It's meats, fruits, everything.
We just have a minute left. Just a quick comment on the three areas: admit it, quit it,
and beat it. And the beat it are the 12 lifestyle tips, down to how to cook, how to shop, how to get your mind right all the time, how to deal with your emotions, how emotions mess up your. So the 12 tips bring the stuff that I've taught in the first 2 sections into a practical hands-on tool. And then this is a lifestyle. You just keep doing it.
I'm so amazed how much you've packed into this book. I want to thank Dr. Lee for being with us this week, and I really want to encourage you to get this book, Think and Eat Yourself Smart. Listen, it's never too late to get healthy. It's something I'm committed to do before the Lord. He wants you to not only to have eternal life, but he wants you to have abundant life. And I believe that this book is part of that reality, living an abundant life. So get the book, Think and Eat Yourself Smart. It's not too late. You can start today. Up next, questions from our viewers on a new segment called Ask the Rabbi. Stay with us. We often get questions from our viewers on many topics related to the Bible, to Israel, to the last days. And let's take a few minutes now to answer some of them. So the first is a question from Lee, who asks, Jesus was supposed to bring peace. You see what's going on the Gaza Strip. How is it possible that he's the Messiah? If you look at the prophecies of the Old Testament, you see what appears to be conflicting prophecies, because some talk about a Messiah who comes in victory and power and establishes peace, and others talk about this suffering servant who dies, but not for himself. And this is a picture not of two messiahs, but of one Messiah that has to come twice to fulfill God's peace plan for the world, the redemption of mankind. It begins with Jesus coming as the Lamb of God to take away the sins of the world, and the existence of free will and a decision that we have to make that comes about from hearing the gospel and believing. And so he brought peace, but he brings peace to those who embrace him and receive peace in their hearts. But he will come again, and the issues in the Gaza Strip will be over. He'll bring in peace, but it comes through God's eternal peace plan, the Prince of Peace, Jesus the Messiah, and it requires two comings, not two messiahs, but one Messiah coming twice. So I hope that answers your question. Bill wants to know, I'm a Christian, but I feel close to the Jewish people in Judaism. Am I wrong to pray Jewish prayers? And Bill, we're all about Christians discovering the Jewish roots of their faith. That's what this program is about. We want believers to understand that the message of God is the same from Genesis through Revelation. So many Christians, have a well-read New Testament. In the Old Testament, the pages are still stuck together, and they see God of the Old Testament as a God of judgment and anger and punishment, and Jesus comes and brings grace. But God is of the Old Testament is very much a God of grace. So it's the same message throughout. Jewish prayers are great if they're scriptural. Understand that 2,000 years ago, the leaders of Israel made a decision to reject Jesus as Messiah. Many of the first believer. Many Jews, the first believers, in fact, were all Jews that came to find Jesus as their Messiah. But at the same time, Judaism as a religion has rejected Jesus as the Messiah. That's changing now. There's thousands of people like me, Messianic Jews, Jews who believe that Jesus is our Messiah. So you have to be very careful here to make sure it's scriptural. If it's scriptural, pray it, do it, believe it. If it's not, if it in any way diminishes Jesus at the center, Yeshua at the center, then I would stay away from it. But we have lots of great materials on our website that'll be of help to you. We have time for one more, and it's from, I guess, Bingy. That's an interesting name. Bingy's curious, where is God and why has he never spoken to me? I believe, but why can't I hear him? Bingy, God is always speaking. And the problem is not his speaking, it's our ability to hear. And I guarantee you this, if you join a Bible-believing community where they proclaim relationship with the living God, they believe that Jesus is alive, they worship him in their worship, and that there's teaching from the Word of God. If you will spend time, even 10 minutes or 15 minutes a day, reading the Bible and asking God to open his word to you. And 3, spend time just asking God to speak to you and listen. You will hear the voice of God, because we believe in a God of relationship, not religion. And I guarantee if you make the time, if you get around other people that hear from God and know him and love him, you will experience that. I absolutely promise you. Do those things and you will enter into a whole new realm of relationship with God. Hey, we love hearing from you, and I love answering these questions. You can write to us by going to our website, jewishvoice.tv, or go to our Facebook page. And who knows, maybe your question will be read on one of our upcoming programs. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Before I leave, though, I want to remind you, as I do in every program, Psalm 122:6 says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, they shall prosper that love thee. So if you want to prosper, pray for Jerusalem. Until next time, I'm Jonathan Bernis saying shalom and God bless.